Hey guys, welcome to Digit.in, and we've had the Realme 6 in our labs for a few days and running benchmarks on it, testing it out over the last couple of days. We've also taken the Redmi Note 8 Pro into consideration and done a comparison in terms of how the two perform with the same chipset, the same amount of RAM, and essentially the same configuration, but there are notable differences. So if you want to know about those, you should first subscribe to our channel and definitely hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of the test-based stuff that we do on here. So having said that, let's go ahead. Hey guys, so my name is Swapnil and I've been testing out the Realme 6 for the Digit Lab. And while I've been doing that, I've also been using the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Both the phones are powered by the same MediaTek Helio G90T processor. They both have 8 gigs of RAM. They both have 128 GB of storage on board. But there is a minor difference. The Realme 6 also now sports a 90Hz display, whereas the Redmi Note 8 Pro still has the usual 60Hz panel. So besides that, I mean, the panel aside itself should not actually lend to a lot of variation in terms of performance numbers. But here's actually what we got. Now, it's very interesting that both of these phones are running near identical hardware. It's not the same, especially when you consider, let's say, variances in the chip die for the processor or for the RAM. When you consider storage, maybe you consider the hardware optimizations that have taken place, there will be small variances that lead to a difference in numbers. So we've been crunching them, and here's sort of where we stand. Let's first talk about benchmarks. For graphics related benchmarks, since this is running the Mali G76 GPU, for GFX Bench, which is more of a GPU based benchmark, we noted FPS of 1128 on the Aztec Ruins test for the Realme 6, whereas the Redmi Note 8 Pro had 1106, a very minor difference. In fact, this is going to be a running theme across all benchmark numbers. When it comes to Geekbench, single core Realme 6 had 470 and the Redmi Note 8 Pro had a score of 502. Again, a very minimal difference. It's just some roughly 35 points, but in terms of the real world usage, it shows absolutely no difference. The 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme benchmark saw both of these phones get the exact same number of 2357. So overall, like in terms of the benchmark numbers, both the phones are pretty neck and neck. I mean, you can see all of the numbers on the screen, of course, I don't need to read them out to you. But where the real difference lay is in the experience of that performance. Let's talk gaming. Now, we of course love to game at Digit. Half the day we spend is basically just gaming, in the name of testing. So we played PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile. As for not League of Legends, my bad. Shadowgun Legends, a bunch of other games, right? And we used Gamebench to essentially record metrics. Now, I'm going to give you numbers for PUBG Mobile and COD Mobile because these are the two most popular games, at least amongst our viewers and readers right now. For PUBG, Realme 6 had a median FPS of 40 with a stability of 99%. That is insane. All right, that is a crazy stability number. It's pretty impressive, and this is with everything turned up to max. So good job to the Realme 6. The Redmi Note 8 Pro for the same thing had a median frame rate of 38 FPS with a stability of roughly 84%. So slightly lower stability, slightly lower frame rates, but hold on to that. COD Mobile for Realme 6 had a 60 FPS median frame rate, whereas the stability was 84%. Now that's a little lower, but for the Redmi Note 8 Pro, we had a median frame rate of 54 FPS and a stability of 86%. So the frames are very similar, the frame rates are very similar, but what does change is the stability, and stability essentially refers to how consistently is the CPU, GPU, RAM, all of the combinations sort of giving you that number. Now, here's another interesting fact. Now, when we dug into the core states of both the phones, we realized that while gaming, both the phones are keeping all cores active at all times. They're all consistently active. And but what was interesting is that the two big cores are running at the same clock speed in conjunction with each other, of course, whereas the 6 smaller cores run at a different, but again the same clock speed. So you've got the smaller cores, let's say, running at 1.7 gigahertz, whereas the big cores may be running at 1.5. Of course, that frequency keeps changing during the duration of the game, but there is synchronicity in the clock speeds of each core within its own cluster, which is very interesting. Typically, when we look at flagship devices, we don't see the big cores kicking in at all times. They kick in periodically at some points. And what's interesting is that the CPU usage by the game does not exceed 22% at any given point of time. So the games are not really hitting the CPU that hard. They are, of course, making the CPU work, that's for sure. But the performance from both of them is fairly consistent. You see that both the phones are fairly neck on neck. But where the Realme 6 honestly edges the Redmi Note 8 Pro out is in that 90Hz display. Now, honestly, it makes zero difference in terms of the performance. Like, there is nothing to do with the performance of the phone. But because you've got a higher refresh rate display, all of that good performance appears a little smoother, right? So given that, the Realme 6 just appears slightly more slick to use. The UI is, of course, it's a personal preference. The UI is pretty nice, but the animations are smooth. They're extra smooth now. Switching between windows is super easy. It's absolutely a smooth experience, and that's sort of what makes it feel like the phone performs better. Although all of the numbers that we've got, whether from real world testing or benchmarks, suggest that both the phones are fairly neck on neck. So what it'll come down to is, over a period of time, how does Realme actually continue to optimize the performance of the Realme 6. Now, what's really fascinating is the Redmi Note 8 Pro has been in the market for quite some time, and it's still managed to hold its own despite the numerous updates it's got. After all of this time, the phone still performs extremely well. Will the Realme 6 continue to do that, let's say 6 months down the line? Now, that is a question that we will definitely explore 6 months down the line. But for now, I hope I've answered most of your questions regarding the performance comparison between the Realme 6 and the Redmi Note 8 Pro. In case you guys have any further questions, you're more than welcome to leave them in the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you guys for watching this video, and before you leave, do make sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell icon so that you don't miss out any of our coverage that is based on testing devices. So thank you guys for watching.